Okay.
All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to open up the meeting at 8:08 p.m. If everybody could rise, we're going to do a pledge of allegiance and just remain standing for our departed. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. You may be seated. Kathleen, if you could read the notice of adequate statement, please.
All attendees and participants agree to conduct themselves in a manner appropriate for public gathering. Individual speakers should be advised that no right of privacy protects a person's public comments made in a public forum. Accordingly, all participants bear responsibility for their own statements and commentary. So on the agenda, presentation is next, but we're going to wait. So you want to read the proclamation?
Yes, will do. All right, there's a proclamation. It's the International Overdose Awareness Day. I'll just read this into the record. Whereas the Township of Millstone does affirm and acknowledge the harm and hardships caused by overdose, and whereas the Township of Millstone recognizes the purpose of International Overdose Awareness Day as remembering loved ones that were lost to overdose and ending the stigma of drug-related deaths. Whereas the governing body of the Township of Millstone has declared the Township of Millstone a stigma-free community. And whereas local resources are available so no one needs to suffer alone or feel helpless. Whereas the Township of Millstone's Alliance to Prevent Substance Misuse exists to meet the needs for a comprehensive coordinated substance abuse program. And whereas the Township of Millstone resolves to play our part in reducing the toll of overdoses in our community, which claims the lives of 13 Monmouth County residents from January 1st, 2025 through March 31st, 2025, along together with countless more affected forever. Whereas we affirm that the people affected by overdose are our sons, our daughters, our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, sisters, and deserving of our love and compassion and our support. Now therefore, I, Al Farrow, Mayor of the Township of Millstone, along with the Township Committee, do hereby proclaim August 31st, 2025 as International Overdose Awareness Day in the Township of Millstone, and do so commend this observance to all of our citizens. Dated upon the 20th day of August, 2025.
Okay, correspondence. Resignation received from Mark Mambrega, Open Space Preservation Council member, effective immediately. Ordinance. Second reading, Ordinance 2508, Ordinance accepting conservation easement for a portion of Block 48, Lot 13.02, located at 172 Paint Island Spring Road.
Explanatory statement. This ordinance accepts conservation easements for a portion of Block 48, Lot 13.02. Affidavit of publication presented. I'd like to open it up to the public. If anybody would like to come up and speak about this particular application only.
At 8:10 p.m.
Thank you. Seeing that there's nobody coming up, I'd like to close this at
8:11 p.m.
Thank you. Motion to adopt the table, please.
I move to adopt.
Thank you. Second, please.
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll call.
Committee Person Zabrowski?
Yes.
Committee Person Ziner?
Yes.
Committee Person Davis?
Yes.
Mayor Farrow.
Yes.
First reading, Ordinance 2509, an ordinance amending Chapter 7 Traffic by adding Section 7-21, 711 Prineville Road of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Millstone, County of Monmouth, and State of New Jersey.
Explanatory statement. This ordinance designates traffic regulations for 711 Prineville Road in accordance with Title 39. Motion to adopt the table.
I'll make the motion to adopt.
Thank you. Second, please.
I'll second.
Any committee discussion? Okay. Roll call.
Committee Person Davis?
Yes.
Committee Person Zabrowski?
Yes.
Committee Person Ziner?
Yes.
Mayor Farrow.
Yes.
Second reading and public hearing to be held on September 3rd, 2025 at 8 p.m. at the Millstone Township Meeting Room, 215 Millstone Road, Prineville, New Jersey. First reading, Ordinance 25-10. An ordinance amending Chapter 5 Fees, Section 5-14, Fees for Chapter 14, Building and Housing, Subsection 5-14.3, State Uniform Construction Code Fees, Building and Housing, and Chapter 14, Building and Housing of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of Millstone, County of Monmouth, and State of New Jersey.
Explanatory statement. This ordinance amends Chapter 5-14, Fees for Building and Housing, subsection 5-14.3, State Uniform Construction Code Fees, Building and Housing, as per state regulations, and provides the fees to be applied for permits obtained under Chapter 14, Buildings and Housing. Motion to adopt the table?
I'll move to adopt.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Committeeperson Davis?
Yes.
Committeeperson Zabrowski?
yes,
Committeeperson Ziner?
Yes.
Mayor Farrell.
Yes.
Second reading and public hearing to be held on September 3rd, 2025 at 8 p.m. at the Millstone Township Meeting Room, 215 Millstone Road, Prineville, New Jersey. Resolutions, consent resolutions. All matters listed under item consent agenda are considered routine by the Township Committee and will be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. There will be no separate discussion on these items. If discussion is desired of any item, that item will be considered separately. 25-155, payment of vouchers, August 20th, 2025. 25-156, resolution authorizing the Township of Millstone to participate in intra-county mutual aid and assistance agreements with participating units in the County of Monmouth. 25-157, resolution authorizing application to the Monmouth County Historical Commission 2026 Preservation Grant for the Thomas Baird House Siding Phase 4 project. 25-158, resolution conditionally authorizing release of letter of credit with Wells Fargo and allowing letter of credit with Valley Bank to be increased in connection with Campo Mine. 25-159, resolution authorizing release of performance guarantees for Avinash Vishash DBA Millstone River Mart LLC, Block 59, Lot 11, application number Z1807, formerly PB 16-01. 25-160, resolution authorizing execution of a deed of open space easement to the County of Monmouth for Block 51, Lot 10, and Block 52, Lot 7, known as 18 Spring Road. 25-161, resolution appointing recreation coordinator. 25-162, resolution approving change order number 1 for Millstone Township's Heritage, Tourism, and Marketing Plan, Clarksburg Cultural Center grand reopening and 250th celebration with GIS story maps. 25-163, resolution of Millstone Township adopting the Monmouth County Multi-Jurisdictional Hazard Mitigation Plan for 2026.
Thank you, Kathleen. Motion to adopt the table, please.
I'll make the motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Committeeperson Ziner?
Yes.
Committeeperson Davis?
Yes.
Committeeperson Zabrowski?
yes,
Mayor Farrell.
Yes.
Reports from various departments for July 2025. Tax collector, $3,318,764.50. Clerk's report, $1,039.60. Dog license, $1,047.20. Municipal court, $14,792.28. Recreation, $19,002.46. Construction, $55,006. COA, $7,442, and the 2025 interest revenue included.
Motion to file.
I'll move to file.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Township Committee minutes, regular meeting minutes, July 16, 2025.
Committee persons Zabrowski and the mayor absent.
Correct.
I'll make the motion to adopt.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
Committeeperson Davis,
Yes.
Committeeperson Zabrowski,
abstain,
Committeeperson Ziner,
Yes.
and Mayor Farrell.
Abstain.
And then there's an appointment made by the mayor.
Yep, like to read it into the record, please. This is Mayor's appointment to the Office of Emergency Management. Be it resolved that Justin Andrillo is hereby appointed as a member to the Office of Emergency Management for a 3-year term beginning August 20th, 2025 and expiring December 31st, 2027. Be it further resolved that a copy of this appointment be forwarded to the Millstone Township Office of Emergency Management and to the appointee. I hereby certify the foregoing to be a true copy of the approval made by the Mayor of the Township of Millstone at its meeting of August 20th, 2025. Okay.
Okay, application for a charitable bin. Clean House Recycling charitable bin renewal located at 519 Route 33 has received permission from owner.
Motion to approve or deny?
I move to approve.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
ACR Trading new charitable bin application to be located at 454 Route 33 has received permission from the owner.
Motion to approve or deny?
I'll make the motion to approve.
Second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, while they're setting up?
We'll do the application for a private party?
Yes, yes.
Okay, application for a private party. Vito Cardinale, Play Hooky, 9th Annual Veterans, Children with Disabilities, and Active Military Fishing Day on August 23rd, 2025, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. located at Ponderosa State Farm, 265 Disbro Hill Road.
Motion to approve a table?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Kevin, how are you looking for that? Is he able to connect?
I think maybe the lieutenant.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do. If while you're working on it,
We'll get there, all right?
Lieutenant Salvato, would you like to come up?
Good evening, everybody. Lieutenant Salvato, I'm the station commander at Hamilton Station, for those of you that haven't met me before. Just up here real quick to talk about the upcoming school year, traffic and crashes. As the summer winds down and the school year begins, you're gonna notice that the traffic pattern starts to change, right? People fall out of that, come out of that vacation mode and they're back to the grind. Kids are back to school, people are going to work. So we'll notice that there's an increase in crashes. It happens every year. Regardless of the time of year, most of our crashes happen between 7 and 9 a.m. and 3 and 5 p.m. Makes sense, right? Rush hour. Now that coincides with the ingress and egress of school. Kids coming and going, school buses. So what we'll do to combat that is you'll see an increased patrol presence out there, especially in those early morning hours and the afternoon hours as well. I asked our tactical patrol units in Troop C to assist us with that. We also have 14 brand new troopers that just started on Monday. They're not out there on their own yet. They have 3 months of training, but you'll see them soon. One thing that your township leadership did was post 2 new signs. If you've seen them out there on Millstone
Actually,
Road.
Lou, six.
Six new signs.
6 throughout the town. yeah.
Okay, excuse me. Seems like it should go without saying, right? Stop for school buses. But it happens. People drive past the school buses. Your school buses are equipped with cameras. They record those infractions. Anything that we get that we can identify that person, we issue that summons. It is a big, heavy hit. So people, be forewarned. That's out there, we are doing it. If one person sees those signs and it strikes up a conversation with somebody, great, money well spent. So your township leadership's to thank for those signs, we appreciate it. Any little bit helps.
No, thank you. We, unlike other municipalities that have their own police departments and they're limited resources, 5 officers, 20 officers, even 100, we're lucky to have the state police that has unlimited resources. And whenever we call upon them, they're always here to help. We have a very good relationship with them. And as you can see, they're here always to support us.
We're here, we'll do whatever you ask. Wherever you need us, we'll be there.
Thank you very much for all that you do for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we good? All right,
It
so.
says connecting.
Well, I'm going to change a little things while they're still working on the technical issues. Normally, the next stage of the meeting is liaison reports. But until Chief Maloney gets his presentation ready, I'm going to just head into my liaison report and hold on for everybody else. So my liaison report is from Fire EMS, and I think it'd be a very good purview into this presentation. So these are the EMS and fire numbers for July 2025. Total responses for EMS and fire were 124. Of that, 80 were medical, 18 were motor vehicle accidents, and fire calls were 26. Of those calls, 57 transports to Center State, 7 to Jersey Shore, 6 to Princeton, and 1 to Robert Wood Johnson Hamilton. On the day shift from 0600 in the morning to 6 p.m., there were 79 calls. On the night shift from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., there were 51. And during that time, they also handled 11 mutual aid calls assisting other municipalities during that month. So as always, I read this and I say thank you to you guys all the time, and we appreciate everything that you guys do for us in town and other municipalities as well for the mutual aid. So thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right,
Here we go.
All right, good segue.
that's why we keep Captain Kraus around, so.
We needed somebody under 35.
Yeah, that's not me. So obviously, you folks all know me. I'm Mike Maloney. I'm the fire chief here in Millstone, for those that don't know me. And I'm here to give you kind of an update on where our EMS program is so far here in 2025. So current information about our EMS division. We staff an ambulance crew 24 hours a day. 365 days a year. We have 19 full-time employees employed by the fire district. That includes 4 shift captains and myself as the fire chief. We also employ 15 per diem firefighter EMTs. The EMS division has 3 members who are dual role personnel firefighter EMTs. One is here tonight, and that's our deputy chief, John Fiore. And then we also have 3 fully licensed and equipped state ambulances. Under the EMS division, is to kind of put things into perspective of where things have gone really in the last 4 years or so, 4.5 years. In 2021, we responded to 1,152 calls out of a department total of 1,361. We transported 671 patients that year, and we handled 211 mutual aid calls. 2022, we handled 1,530 on the EMS division side for just shy of 1,800 as a department. To date, that's our busiest year on the books as an agency. We transported 904 people that year, and we did just shy of 500 mutual aid responses. And I've talked about in the years past the mutual aid. That particular year, we assisted a municipality that was going through some transition with establishing a paid program. Their previous service contractor and their volunteers could not keep up with the call volume, so we rose to the occasion. We assisted them. The bulk of that, almost 500 responses, was into that particular town. They, of course, have since stabilized their organization. They put on a number of employees. They had a resurgence with aggressive recruitment on the volunteer side, and we really go there now about once or twice a month. But that, from a business end, that does affect us. In 2023...
Mike, quick question. What's the difference between department total and...
Department total is the overall calls for service. So the ambulance goes to a lot of the fire calls. Okay. In fact, our ambulance is out on a medical call right now. They go to a lot of the fire calls, but they don't necessarily go to all of them. That's situational dependent. If it's a mutual aid call, if they're already out on an EMS call when a fire call comes in, if it's something where the shift supervisor feels it's only a one piece of apparatus needed, maybe it's a minor incident, he may leave them back. So that's our true call volume to the right, the department total. So 2023. 1,351 department total, 1,651. We fell back to 787 transports, and that mutual aid number started to drop off down to about 300. Last year, we saw a decrease in our overall call volume. We dropped down to 1,525 with the EMS division handling 1,174. We transported still 720 people, and our mutual aid was 181. So over a 100 call drop. Kind of speaks for where that call volume decrease was. However, this year paints a different picture. This year, as of August 19th, the department has done just shy of 1,100 calls. I think as of tonight, we're at 1,097. Total calls on the EMS side, 845. We've transported over 500 patients this year, but we've only done mutual aid 77 times. And I came up with some projected response statistics for us. We're looking like we're going to be around the 1,700 incidents for the year. EMS somewhere around 1,300. Total transports in that range, 775, and a little over 100 mutual aid calls. So the mutual aid has fallen off, but if you see, our numbers are coming back up, and that just kind of speaks to the needs of the municipality, what's going on in our overall area. There is development obviously occurring all around us, influx in traffic, transit population coming through, commuting, et cetera. Just some bar graphs up here to kind of, again, show those numbers of where we're at. As I said, it trended back down, and now we're kind of coming back up again here. So some service highlights. We average a response time on the EMS end in town 7 minutes to get to somebody's door when they call 911 for an ambulance. This year in 2025, we had 4 different scenarios where patients were in cardiac arrest, and we restored what they call spontaneous circulation, meaning breathing and a pulse returns in the field, which that happens through rapid response. Second incidents or incidents requiring 2 or more ambulances, we handle those 87% of the time with the department staff and the ambulance. We've received EMS mutual aid in Millstone this year only 16 times. And for the first time, because now we have 3 ambulances, we've been able to staff all 3 ambulances 3 times this year, which is something we're very proud of. This week alone, we've had second incidents every day. Monday, we had a very significant motor vehicle accident with serious injuries. As soon as we were wrapping that accident up and our ambulances were in the process of transporting, we had 2 additional medical calls come in that short window of time. But we had second EMS calls yesterday and again today where we're handling those. We're getting the personnel out to cover the calls and answer the call for service. And that's why I put this up here. Even though our call volume has kind of been up and down and we were doing a lot of mutual aid, our second assignments continue to increase every year. And in doing so, we had a decrease of what we could handle in 2023, and that had a lot to do with being down to only 1 ambulance. And now that we're back to a healthy fleet of vehicles, and we're able to rotate maintenance and everything else, it allows us to cover more of these incidents. But you can see our dependence on mutual aid extremely low, which we take pride in that. We're here to answer the call, whatever it is, fire, EMS, motor vehicle accident. Our guys are aggressive in whatever they do, and they take a lot of pride in doing that. As part of our vehicle replacement program, as you well know, I spoke about this last year. We put a new ambulance in service in August of 2024. We purchased a remounted ambulance box on a brand new chassis. That purchase price was $226,000. We then outfitted that. We added a what they call power load stretcher, which is very beneficial for lifting heavy patients, but also protecting personnel from the most common injury in our field, which is a back injury from lifting and moving patients. And that helped us increase our level of service. It's very important to note, through excellent financial management on our end, with insurance proceeds and the municipal contribution, we bought that ambulance for cash. So that was something that, again, that we were proud of, that we had done a great job managing the money and being aggressive with answering calls and transporting patients and collecting insurance proceeds, that we were able to purchase that vehicle at no expense to the taxpayer. So part of our vehicle replacement plan is to maintain a comprehensive plan to ensure we have vehicles are remounted up to 3 times, depending on the condition of the ambulance box. That will allow us to maintain a good level of service, as well as remaining financially responsible with the ever-increasing cost of vehicles. We currently have a 2012 ambulance that we are still actively using. We're over 94,000 miles on it, but that vehicle would be kind of deemed for an ambulance to be toward its end of life. So with appropriate planning, looking to remount that ambulance in the next 1 to 2 years to extend its lifespan and keep us at that appropriate level of vehicles. A remount represents a savings of over $100,000 versus a new vehicle. So there's something to be said for using that type of program. The challenges that we face on our end, we have a shrinking volunteer basis, which is not something that's local to Millstone or Monmouth County or even the state. It's a nationwide problem. And our members of our volunteer fire company would attest to that it's getting harder to recruit people, getting harder to get people to turn out when we need them to respond to incidents. We've continued our efforts to maintain per diem personnel that helps us to offset our salary costs and our healthcare benefits costs. And then we've continued to grow our career staff to remain in front of these challenges with manpower and, of course, our ever-increasing call volume. So I talked about EMS billing a little bit, and this is how we receive the majority of our funding throughout the year. So since our inception as the EMS provider, We have made patient contact over 4,500 times, and that has led to us billing for over $4.2 million in money toward insurance companies. However, it's a jaded number, it's a skewed number. We always bill at the highest level that we're allowed to. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're gonna ever see all of that money. It's no different when you get a bill at the hospital and you're like, why am I paying $40 for a Tylenol pill? It's because they're only gonna ever recover a small cost of that. So we have collected over $1.5 million to date. That's about a 37% collection rate, which industry standards are 35 to 40%. So you ask me probably why. Why is that the case? Why can't you collect more money? Well, number one, we don't take any Millstone residents to collection at all. In fact, we take nobody to collection because the collection process and the percentages that you would pay the collection company for recovering a small amount of money would outweigh the issues that would come with that. You would say, all right, we're not gonna bill the township residents. Well, what happens when Mayor Farrow has a relative visiting him who's from out of the state or out of the area, and now they come to visit him and they're now getting an ambulance bill when he is in fact a taxpayer of the community. But insurance fixes a lot of the contribution components. So something like Medicare, and we have a smaller senior population in this town, Medicare with the Part A and B is somewhere in the $500 to $600 return rate. That's a decent return. If we got $500 every time we took somebody to the hospital, we'd be sitting in a much better financial picture. We also have people that have no insurance, or we have people who are on Medicaid, managed Medicaid, New Jersey FamCare, all affordable health care options. When we transport somebody with one of those insurance plans, for example, we see $60 to $70. Even if we had a collection program in place and we wanted to collect on those, we legally cannot under the insurance companies. Furthermore, for folks that have a third-party insurance plan, like the majority of our middle-aged population, based off your deductible range, it may take so much into the year before you meet all your deductibles. So if you call the ambulance in the early part of the year and the ambulance bill is $1,100 to transport you to the hospital, you haven't met that deductible range yet, so insurance doesn't pay us. So there's many things that go into the overall financial picture. And because of that, this year, with changes in insurance and changes on the billing collection ends, we've only received $190,000 to date. Now, we did have a very good month in July where we received a payment of $46,000, much higher than what we had received throughout the year. That represents things catching up on the billing company end. One of the things that I deal with constantly is all the different insurance companies constantly change how they're paying the billing company, which leads to additional paperwork components, moving to all online formats as opposed to mailing checks. These things change probably 3 or 4 times a year. So when that happens, there's always a lag in revenue on our end. But we eventually make that up. And then furthermore, when folks get into car accidents, which we have a lot of those in the community, if it's something where it's going to litigation, it may take 2 or 3 years to settle that case. When the settlement is made, they have to make good on all the debt. So we may get paid for a car accident where we transported somebody 3 years ago. So if the EMS program were to fold up shop tomorrow, we may see money come in at some component trickle in for years to come, but no guarantee of what we're gonna receive and when. So in 2024, we received a total of $570,000. Insurance marked $370,000 of that, and the township contribution was $200,000. As mentioned, in 2025, we've only received $190,000 in insurance, and we have not received a township contribution to date. We have spent $341,000 this year, the large majority of that personnel costs. We have 3 full-time positions paid for by the EMS program. We have that per diem staff that I mentioned. We have overtime factored in when calls extend past the end of shifts, or we don't have any per diem personnel available. Bottom line is I have to guarantee an ambulance. So our biggest cost, hands down, is our personnel cost, but there's also fuel, insurance, payroll tax, supplies, etc. We have exhausted our surplus this year without the township contribution. We came into the year at $151,000 in the bank, and we are down to $529 left in that account. So in the shortcoming of that, we're gonna have to essentially borrow from ourselves to cover that, to make the bills get paid and to pay the payroll, etc. So we anticipate the full $200,000 payment from the township this year. That will help us restore our financial stability. It will allow us to properly plan for our future capital purchases, and it will allow us to continue our focus on delivering this community a first-class service, something, again, that we're very proud of, our response times and the coverage that we're able to put out on a consistent basis. Any questions?
Somebody have any questions? I have. What does it cost you to run EMS per month? So like, give me an idea of how much it's gonna cost for September through December of this year.
So if you took that factor of $341,000, divide that by
12?
7, or by 12, I would say divide it by 7, full 7.5 months into the year, that would give you that price tag. When I build my budget out, I build it out for the year. I build it out based off what my anticipated costs are for my per diem personnel. I have overtime factored in there. Overtime tracks up in the summertime, why we're using at-will employees in that per diem component. So they, of course, go on vacation, they all have jobs in other agencies, et cetera. So we have budgeted this year for close to $600,000, knowing that we probably won't spend all that money. But again, the biggest costs, are payroll, salaries for part-time employees, $225,000 for the year. Our salaries for our 3 full-time employees, $170,000 a year. We have $50,000 in overtime figured in there. Now, granted, we have not spent a little more than half of that money this year, so we're right on track there. But then things like payroll taxes, $37,000. Health insurance, $27,000. Workers' comp, $10,500. Liability insurance, and then our supplies, of course. And supplies are some things we know we have to replace based off use. Like, for example, we replaced, or we had to have all our oxygen bottles retested for their hydrostatic testing, something done every year. That's going on as we speak right now. As we use more oxygen, we hence have to order more oxygen. Things like the EpiPens, it's a low frequency use. We throw out a lot more of those than we use because they expire. When we actually administer those to a patient, we can bill for the insurance on that. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to receive that, but we end up throwing a lot of those out because they expire. Not necessarily a bad thing that we don't have people in anaphylactic shock, but it's just, the cost of doing business. Rising fuel costs, which is something we accepted the fuel component from the township about 3.5 years ago, where we provide the fuel as part of the EMS program. There's about $15,000 right there. Vehicle maintenance, tires, et cetera. So it adds up.
Do you have a fund or a set aside just in case something breaks down that was not anticipated, not maintenance? Like they went out, something went wrong, hose or whatever. Do you have a fund available to you that's
on the fire side of the operation? Yes, we do. We have what we call contingency fund. That's in the fire portion of our budget, which is much larger than EMS. But we have been faced this year with some very significant repairs on the fire side. We just had to do a complete front end suspension on one of our frontline pieces of apparatus. That was a $14,000 repair. We have a steering issue with another piece of apparatus that 2 steering boxes need to be replaced. We're looking at $10,000 right there. So we do budget for maintenance. We do all our preventative maintenance in-house. We do all the preventative maintenance on the vehicles in-house. Again, a cost-saving move on our end. But there's certain repairs like suspension, for example, we don't do that. We send that to an expert. We don't do tires. We want those to be properly mounted and balances. We don't want to accept that liability. Other than that, our staff does all of the maintenance in-house. We have guys that have a number of different mechanic certifications. Some have what they call EVT, which is Emergency Vehicle Technician. So, for example, today, one of the firefighters replaced an airline that was for one of our tankers that runs all through the vehicle. They had that vehicle completely stripped apart for the better part of the day to complete that repair. To put things into perspective, looking at a price quote for the steering box that I mentioned, a shop rate from a recognized fire apparatus dealer was $140 an hour. Now, granted, Monmouth County is about half that through their shared service program, but they also can't necessarily do everything. So the bottom line is using on-duty personnel that have the training, we're coming up with a significant savings.
Absolutely. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, quick question. How do you do future budget and forecasting, considering the township is probably going to grow a lot within the next 3 to 5 years?
Oh, yeah. So with the future budgeting and stuff, we obviously We're a January 1st cycle for our budget. We're pretty much ready to embark on the budgeting process here on our end in September to start really taking a look at things. A lot of that's dictated on the township numbers, what the tax rate could be, what our 2% increase could be, et cetera. So we have stayed in front of really hiring staff and growing our department to meet that challenge. We've stayed ahead of that. We've seen municipalities around us recently go through a rapid hire of people because they fell behind the 8 ball. To put things into perspective, in the last month here, Upper Freehold Township hired 3 additional firefighters. They went 24 hours a day staffing a piece of fire apparatus. Jackson Fire District Number 2 hired additional personnel. They now are 24 hours a day staffing a firehouse because of a shortage of volunteers. Something that occurred mid-year where it was outside of their control. They had a decrease in membership. They had to make a move then. So we have stayed in front of hiring people, growing the staff. I represent part of that growth in becoming the first career fire chief for this town because of the size of our operation and everything that we're responsible for. So we've done well there. Our challenges, of course, our biggest financial challenges are capital purchases like apparatus. And I know the mayor and I have had this conversation many times. We're in desperate need of a new firehouse, which is a very loaded answer to discuss and obviously a big ticket number. But we know we prepare our numbers accordingly. We can forecast forward. Certain parts of our work are unpredictable. We seem to have call increases when we have a lot of weather events, which we've had several this year. That dictates an increase in responses, obviously dictates an increase in what we may utilize, go through, et cetera. But we build a lot of that in, and we've stayed very true to our numbers on our end in doing that. Does that answer your question, or is there something else you were
Well,
looking
I'm
for?
trying to think more on the revenue side. Assuming all the affordable housing comes online within the next 3 to 5 years, you're looking at probably about 300 units, which probably means an additional population of a few thousand people, which means your number of road cases is probably going to increase probably about 20, if not 25%, I'm estimating in my head.
And in reality, even if we didn't grow at all, even if tomorrow we never built another building in this town, everybody else around us continues to grow. Anybody that's driven down Route 33 lately in Manalapan Township sees the rapid influx in construction going on there, and that is ultimately an impact to our infrastructure and an impact to our emergency services because of that population coming through our community at some point or another. So, again, a lot of my costs kind of stay fixed in that I have the staff, I continue to employ them, they have a set contract, we know what their salary numbers are. Certain things fall outside the 2% cap, like healthcare, which is a very troubled topic in the public sector right now with the rising costs there. So that at least allows us some wiggle room with adjusting our budget. But our biggest thing on the revenue side, it really boils down to types of calls and types of insurance. Okay, so as the challenges in the insurance community continue to rise, that may impact us further, that we have more folks on affordable care, for example, or if we have a very large contingency of affordable housing, we may find a lot of folks with Medicaid. On the flip side, if we had a senior development, for example, where everybody was on Medicare over the age of 65, as I mentioned earlier, you're talking $500 to $600 a transport, and those are, elderly people are more prone to needing EMS. Not that any of us couldn't need it at any point. I think I've told you in the past, my own family's been in this ambulance several times, both my immediate family and my parents who live in town. We've all used them for something at some point or another. It's the things that happen to you. So again, where I see our fixed cost being is I don't foresee us moving out of staffing one ambulance. If I had another 1,000 calls tomorrow, and you would say, wow, that's great, you're gonna have that much more revenue. No, it's not great, because now I'm gonna have to consider putting on a secondary crew, at least for a certain component daytime, to cover that influx, that busy hour, or some agencies call it a power truck, so my costs would increase, right? So I don't necessarily foresee us today in that position of needing to put up a second crew. I would expect an increase in calls for service that would lead to an increase in billable revenue. But at the same token, when we started this program 5 years ago, we started with fixed number of 200,000 a year. That was where we came in at. And we have just, been hit with so many different changes in this industry. COVID happened. COVID kind of changed the game for everybody there. It led to a lot of EMS agencies going paid all through our immediate area. The large majority of the volunteer first aid squads that were holding on or staying in business all folded up shop, but it also led to that many more positions out there. The hiring pool shrunk significantly, where we were having people begging us for positions to come work for us part-time, to now we're the ones begging people to come work for us. Furthermore, we've seen a ton of fire departments hire personnel. The job market to be a career firefighter in the state, in my opinion, is better than it's ever been. Where we used to tell people for years, if you wanted to be a career fireman, you probably should consider moving out of state or moving into a city and getting an address and testing through civil service. But municipal jobs were few and far between. It's not the case anymore. We've seen massive increases in the surrounding programs, and additionally, you've seen a lot of people begin to retire, guys that have done their 25 years, and I have personnel that work for me right now that could retire tomorrow because they've met their 25 years of service. So that market's turning over. It's leading for more opportunity, but less people to fill those roles. So, all those are challenges within the operation and in the business side of it. But again, our costs, we can forecast those accurately. We can forecast where we're gonna be, as I gave you kind of projections here. The fire calls change from day to day here. We go through periods of time where we're very busy to where we go down to 1 or 2 incidents a day. But tomorrow, for example, it's going to be windy. We potentially get 30 to 40 mile an hour winds out here. We're gonna be responding to wires down and trees on wires and stuff all day long, and our personnel are gonna be out, covering all these responses. So, a lot of that stuff is very projectable on our end to keep in line with our budget.
Yeah, but at the same token, given what I foresee coming to the town, the ask right now is 200K from the Township Committee. How do we know in, say, 3 years that becomes $500,000?
So-
How do we
So we are currently,
anticipate and control that?
we are currently ending our 5-year contract. We are outside of that contract at the end of the year, and we're in a process of, we would begin contract negotiations with you outside of this meeting to discuss that and discuss the forecast of where this program needs to be. I do personally expect that there will be some incremental increase to continue to put us in line with the standards, to keep the per diem pay salaries at the appropriate levels, to be able to prepare for capital purchases. As I said, the fleet has to be maintained, it has to be kept up to snuff. I need to consider remounting an ambulance in the next couple of years. But the ask for this year, in line with that contract, we've made that $200,000 work for 5 years, and we can make it work again this year. But we have to take a hard look at that moving forward. A $500,000, I don't think is a realistic number at all. To come in and say that we maybe need another 50 to 100,000 a year, that would probably be a reasonable request, but that's a conversation, of course, that we can have.
I guess as a follow-up to his question, assuming there is more calls because of more population, what would you say, to what capacity are you running the operation now, meaning based on your current staff and equipment, how much more can you take? Are you running at 80% capacity, 50% capacity? What do you think?
More of a utilization number.
Yeah, I mean, it's, again, we have days, today they've had 4 calls for service, for example, scattered throughout the day, 3 medicals and a fire call. We have days where we do a dozen calls in a day. We've had 20 call days this year already. A lot of that is more predictable with the weather, not that we don't have a busy day for no apparent reason at all. I'm trying to think, Monday, I think there was about 8 incidents the guys handled throughout the day, including that serious accident that I spoke of. The staff covers what they need to cover. These guys all took this position, myself included. They want to be utilized. They come to work to respond to emergencies. They don't want to sit idle. We find plenty for them to do in their idle time. As I mentioned, we have a very comprehensive maintenance plan. We do all the fire inspections for the municipality. We take care of the facility, plus all the training, the administration end. I'm working at 150%, it seems, most days there with everything that I'm responsible for. But we keep these guys busy. When we're busy with call volume, The other stuff, of course, falls at the wayside. Things get pushed off, inspections may not occur the day that they were planned for, training may not happen, but we do a good job of mixing in and utilizing them in their downtime and keeping them busy. The majority of our folks work a 24-hour shift, so we want them to, have full days. I can tell you, my years on shift, I wanted to be busy all day long, whether it was responding to incidents or taking care of everything else it was that we did, because next thing I know, it was time to eat lunch, then it was time to eat dinner, and before you know it, it's midnight and you need to go to sleep for a little while before you go home in the morning. So, the staff is covering everything that we need to cover right now. We would have to see a very significant increase in our run volume where we'd ever be in a position to consider a secondary crew, additional personnel to staff another location, et cetera. We'd have to see a real bump in run volume that I personally don't think I'm gonna see in my career.
Eric, they would never want to be staffed for 100%. Whenever they get to the 100% capacity,
Yeah, maybe
you call mutual aid in from Monroe.
Yeah, I meant more
and
like, okay, so,
Jackson and-
like, what's your average number of calls per day that you handle now in general, and how many can you handle, basically?
I mean, again, we're averaging 4.5 to 5 a day. That is what the historical average number is, based off that, 365 days, as I project, a little over 1,700 responses a year. I mean, we could double that tomorrow. It's gonna put a wear on it, where I would have to consider ensuring, for example, I have 4 firefighters on my engine as opposed to 3 to help, put that wear and tear off the personnel. But the call volume right now accurately fits the personnel that we have on shift. Our biggest position that we're in right now is, as I mentioned, decreasing volunteer membership here, and we've talked about some different things this year to try and reignite them into the operation, to have them perform duty crews overnight where they're in the firehouse to help us staff the apparatus to guarantee that fire truck can leave right away at nighttime, as opposed to now it just leaves during the day. But we have to obviously stay in front of that. As I mentioned, we have lost a number of volunteers in the last few years here, and the guys that still are actively responding will be the first to tell you. They have the challenges like we all do. They have families, they have demanding careers, some work second jobs, their spouses work. It's a big drain on the family. I couldn't, myself and everything that I do now, I couldn't imagine being a volunteer fireman on top of that. It's busy enough being your volunteer OEM coordinator, and that's really just a logistics and an administrative position. So, the call volume could increase. We have to take a hard look at where we're at, and more importantly, what can we afford? I could have all the wants in the world to hire additional staff and to upstaff my department, but I also operate on a 2% cap in my budget. So with that 2% cap, I can only make the increases so much. When we saw a major increase in ratables here a few years ago when a number of those warehouses came online, that gave us the ability to hire a number of additional full-timers that year. Without that windfall coming in, we may be stuck at a lower number of personnel and still answering the same amount of calls, which is not going to be productive at all and not be good for the community. So those ratables definitely aided us in building our staff up. And again, we're going to continue to build, but we've done things very smartly, very wisely, have been good stewards of the money, and recognizing that we can only increase so much. That if we have a year where ratables, and I remember 10, 11 years ago, we would have years where we'd be told you can raise your budget $30,000. That's what the 2% cap is. That's it. You could have all the wants in the world, equipment to replace and everything else, but you can come up 30 grand. You have to make hard decisions on what you're going to fund, what you're not going to fund, and cut it out. And with equipment replacements, maintenance, everything else, you can only do that for so long until your bills won't add up on you. So.
Okay. Anything else? Chief Maloney, thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Commissioner Merrill, would you like to say anything? But you got to keep it short because we're running out of time.
Really short, like in any town, any business, I know where you're coming from. I live here. We grew, and we're gonna grow, and we have to respond. And it's a growing thing. I couldn't tell you next week what's gonna happen. What if something does happen where the population explodes? We have to respond to it. That's basically what we do. We respond to what the situation is. If we find out that we don't have enough people, chief is not embarrassed to come and ask for more hires. And we have to contemplate, and we go through all the statistics that you go through as to need and the growth of the movement. but you can't deny it. What price do you put on a life? If I came made a decision, that quite frankly, where I thought that it impacted some way on somebody being safe, I'm gonna go the other way. And you would too, and I think the mayor would. You have to be flexible. You have to look at reality. You gotta see what you can afford. We always do that. I run my house. The kids come in and want everything. I give some, but I don't. And it's no different. We're here to serve. We try to do the best job we can. You see what they do. I mean, you here, you live in this community. If anybody was coming to you saying that we weren't doing the job, you'd hear it. And I don't hear anybody saying, you know, that truck looks new. Thank God it's here. So what I'm just saying to you, it's a flexible situation. Chief can't tell you what's gonna happen next week. He could have a month, nobody does nothing, and then he has a month where we don't have enough people. Right now, we're trying to get volunteers. Why? It allows us to save money. We're trying that. But in the absence of volunteers, and we have a fire, we have a call, and we can't respond. Now, if I speak for the commissioners and all the firemen right here, we're gonna come in and say, hey, look, we have this job and responsibility, and it's a responsibility. We all have that responsibility to you, to provide the best service we can. We don't come in every week, we come in here once a year, we show you who we are. We come here, we live in the town, we try to do the best, and if we may ask you for something, it's not something that, it's not been thought out by the 5 commissioners. We go through it all. The chief is a great spokesman, probably could some of them top 3 kids, but he knows what he's speaking about. This is a knowledgeable department. These are well-trained people, and you wouldn't want anything else, and we wouldn't want anything else.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
What's the qualifications to volunteer?
Well,
Where's the
Where's the
chief?
chief?
Get an application.
Yeah.
Get
So,
an application.
so to talk about what it takes to be a volunteer, the biggest thing is obviously you need to have the willingness, you need to have the drive, and you need to have that initial commitment that you're gonna put the time forward to do one of 2 things. Number 1 would be to go to Firefighter 1, which is a 200-hour program. It stretches over 4 to 4.5 months. We hold it here locally in Monmouth County at our fire academy. That's the initial certification to be an interior firefighter, okay? That number scares a lot of people off. That program has increased throughout the years to fit in all the necessary training. That's only the foundation of the training though. That's square one. One of our firefighters here tonight just finished that program up, and we have him on a pathway here to set him up for long-term success, whether with our department or somewhere else. But that's the initial class. From there, we want our personnel to be EMTs, okay? EMT, again, you're talking about 250 hours. There's riding time, there's clinicals associated with that, et cetera. But that's just the card, right? That's just the ink on the card. That just says you can do it. It doesn't mean that you can do it. We have to get the folks out there. We have to get them on the apparatus responding. We have to get them in front of people. We have to train them, you know, in initial scenarios and build their confidence to where we can start to cut them loose to be a provider or to operate on their own as a firefighter. But again, the training increases. You know, we send our personnel for rapid intervention training, which is training how to remove firefighters that may be trapped in a burning building, unable to exit on their own. We train our firefighters in multiple rescue disciplines, including vehicle extrication. We've put a huge emphasis this year on improving our water rescue capabilities. That was something that we had set out on last year. And again, all these things add up, whether it's an engine company class, a truck company class, additional rescue training. You're talking probably 1,000 hours to get somebody where they need to go. Not that that has to happen in 1 year, but it's getting people that initial commitment to commit to go into the fire academy, to follow it through. And oh, by the way, you might be tired tonight. I need you to get out of bed at 2 o'clock in the morning and come down because somebody's carbon monoxide alarm is going off, somebody's fire alarm's going off, there's a car accident, etc. And that's the hardest part for, I think, for anybody. I can tell you when I was a volunteer, you could be home for a week and nothing would happen, and the day you go to work, there's the structure fire that you've been waiting to go to, but now you're unavailable to respond. Or you're tired because you had a late day at work and your children are up and you've been asleep for an hour, and now there's in a car accident, we need you to get out of bed. Those are the biggest challenges. Am I wrong, Deputy Chief Fiore?
No,
About this?
that's highly accurate.
You know, and then couple that with, we won't have a call for fire service overnight for a week, and then go 3 or 4 nights in a row where there's an overnight incident, and now these guys are going to work repeatedly tired. They burn out from that, right? And as I mentioned, most of my personnel, whether they're full-time employees or volunteers, they're working multiple jobs. They live in multiple income households to make ends meet. The majority have children. They have children's activities. That eats up a lot of their time and takes them away from so much. It's, you know, and that's just really the story everywhere you go right now. You know, I recently kind of heard it put in perspective of years ago, people worked 8 to 4 and they came home at 4 o'clock and they didn't do anything until the next day. They had very, you know, limited other obligations, and now they're going to a second job. They have to take the kids to baseball. One has to go to Cub Scouts. One's going to, you know, 4-H, whatever it may be. And now we need them to come to a drill night to keep their training up. We need them to respond to 3 incidents tonight, et cetera. It's just, there's not enough time in the day, and every community around us is going through those same struggles.
Thank
So-
you very much.
Typically in the past, we would take a vote on the contribution, and we would break it up into 2, you know, one now and one next year. So is that okay?
It was, we typically were doing something mid-year and then something toward the end of the year.
So we didn't give anything early this year? Oh.
We have not.
I stand corrected. Okay, so you want us to take a vote on it now?
Whatever would make the most sense.
So should we put it out to the public and ask their opinion?
I think
Only
this
that
side
side
would
of the
say
room.
yes.
That was a loaded question. That was a loaded request. How about we discuss it, and then we'll render our opinion, and then if somebody wants to come up and speak, we'll have you come up and speak. How about that? Okay? So, yes or no?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
So we'll just be clear what we're voting on. The 200,000?
Yeah, because we were supposed to give them 100,000 earlier this year, and then the second now, but we didn't do that, so they want the full amount this year, you know, now.
Okay, yes.
Absolutely. So, there you go.
Beautiful.
Do you have anything
So
to say?
what will happen, it will
Thank
go
you.
on the next
Thank
bill
you very
list.
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you
It's
for
well
your
needed.
service.
on behalf of all of us, the administration, we want to thank not just the men of your department, but the women of your department as well. So, thank you for
Yes,
stepping
thank
up
you.
and doing it. And proving that women have what it takes to be a fire person, or firefighter. How about that? Thank you.
If I could just make one quick request of the chief.
Yes.
Is it possible we could get some statistics of metrics about some, if it exists, trouble spots in town where there tends to be more issues?
Like traffic accidents?
Traffic accidents, whatever the case may be? Maybe we could do
Where-
something more on a safety prevention?
So, that's a loaded answer for you.
Oh, I know.
It's gonna be a loaded answer. Obviously, we have facilities in town that require our services sometimes on a daily basis. We have roadways in town that we respond to more frequently than others.
Agreed.
We have residents that may go through health challenges where, you know, they require our services frequently. And we've had those residents, you know, I have to be very careful how I answer that question, and, you know, into the multiple components, but we've had residents at times in this town need the ambulance upwards of 30 times, you know, over a few year period because of whatever health challenges they go through. And unfortunately, one of 2 things happens there. They either leave town or they end up passing away from all their health challenges. So I could highlight sections of the community. We have the community kind of broken out into response grids, and that would break down where areas of the town we respond to more frequently. You know, for example, like our 537 business district, you know, especially this time of year, we're active with responding to car accidents, fire incidents, medicals at the businesses, et cetera. I just have to ensure that what I'm showing you isn't too suggestive to addresses that may need EMS services, because we start to get into the whole HIPAA component. So I could clearly depict where we respond to and where we're portions of the town we're actively responding to you. I could easily break out for you where we respond to car accidents at. That's not a surprise, I think, to anybody. I know that's been very.
We've actually done that in the past,
Yeah.
when the county was looking for information on getting these roundabouts and things like that, then we went over a certain period of time. Some of the ones you actually think were busy, weren't as busy as some of the others, so.
I'm honestly leery to talk about what intersections you would think would be dangerous that just simply aren't, because I don't want to draw any attention or to curse that.
They're all dangerous, everybody
Yeah.
drive carefully,
Yeah,
we
I
won't
mean,
have a problem.
We definitely have intersections that we respond to frequently, but there's others that you would think were dangerous that we just simply don't go to. And not saying that couldn't change, and some that Kevin and I have had this conversation off to the side before. I can remember some being dangerous in for years, and for whatever changed, the problem stopped there. But not that we couldn't have a very serious crash at one of those intersections this evening. So I think what would probably paint the best picture would be to show you the portions of town where we're responding to it and break that out accordingly, and that might help you with that information.
Also to add to that, in the past, state police were very helpful in identifying prone locations, and they did targeted enforcement to reduce, that. So we could also work with you and with state
That's
police.
what I'm thinking, sort of like a combination of
Yeah.
public safety.
Absolutely.
So the
Obviously-
lieutenant and I had numerous conversations. I think back in June, there was 44 cars pulled over in one day, something thereabouts. It was, so I believe there may be one of those coming up, so start driving carefully.
On a certain street? On a certain street?
No.
Well, we're not gonna tell you that.
Multiple streets and changes, but.
We're not gonna tell you when, we're not gonna tell you where, we're not gonna tell you the time.
Somebody's always watching it. That's the best
Yeah.
the best way to put it is, obviously, the state police respond to every car accident. If a police report's needed, they're going. We're only responding to, reports of injuries, power lines involved, a damaged utility pole, et cetera, and then on up from there. So we see a significant amount of accidents. That's never been a secret here. We always have. That's been a big part of the work that we do, township wide, and certain roadways, 195, 537, sure, in the summer months are much busier. In the wintertime, the response numbers out there aren't nearly as high. The volume shuts off because the traffic just simply isn't there. So, again, if I were to break that out into a geographical map and show you the sections, that might kind of highlight more of where we're responding to, and I'd be glad to, converse with you more about that.
Yeah, be curious.
He's probably thinking more just about the accidents.
Well, I know Proudland Way's been an issue lately. I hear cars drag racing on Perineville Road, since that's where I live by. Stagecoach and Stillhouse still tends to be a very hot area in town. So,
Stagecoach and Millstone Road.
I mean, Scooter's Corner,
School's Corner's a mess.
I would say in the last month, we've had at least 4 accidents that we responded to
Yeah.
there ourselves, so. And again, it goes in waves where, you haven't been somewhere in a while, and then 2 or 3 times in a week, and that's really like anything.
I've asked the county, because they got dragged out, the DEI paperwork a couple of years ago wasn't done properly, so a big builder that was doing a $100 million job up in New Brunswick wasn't good enough anymore to do this because their paperwork wasn't right.
Yeah.
But they got it out, they're waiting for DOT signature. I've asked the county, consider putting 5 stop signs there, stop every one of those, which you can imagine, that might be interesting, at least if there's an accident, it'll be a low speed
Nobody's gonna know
impact.
when to go.
Al had mentioned to me that when you go from Stillhouse going south, you're looking to the left, it's a passing lane. So I went to the county, I said, obviously, the car might see the car kind of going slow, but another car, I don't think it's happened yet, but another car comes flying around it. I brought it to the county, and they said they will take care of it fairly quickly.
Yeah.
So they're gonna adjust it. So as things come up, we try to do it, but people careless and speeding is usually the
No, but I
issue.
look at it this way, they're kind of like our early warning system in a way.
Yeah.
And if they start seeing more things happening more often, then we should be brought to our attention where we might be able to do something to counter it.
No, they got there's 4, within that small section from Stillhouse to Clarksburg, it's gonna be 4 roundabouts. But they don't stop accidents, but they're less less damage when they do happen. But people gotta just be careful, slow down.
You know, we've done a lot too with obviously highlighting areas of concerns, highlighting, you know, dead trees that may affect power, that may affect sight lines. And, you know, I speak with Kevin a few times a week. I have an excellent rapport with your public works staff. I'm sure sometimes they get tired of me calling them for different stuff, but when I notice in our travels that we can't see at certain stop signs, whether it's something that's a Millstone issue or a lot of times it becomes a Monmouth County issue from the road, we get them notified and they in turn call the county and the stuff's addressed within 24 hours.
So we're actually working on, Eric and I've talked to Eric that I'm applying for this grant. It's for $763,000. All we have to do is provide a little bit of help with the DPW, maybe a little bit of engineering. It's not a matching grant. And that is it's a carbon regeneration. So the idea is we're gonna be planting trees, but we wanna get rid of the dead trees. And we haven't told it, it'll be during our right of way, but if we have dangerous trees, we may be able to help residents get rid of them and then we'll replace them. So I don't know what our chances are. You know, some of this grant was for like, for brown fields or something to replace the, you know, like fields of trees. But I think we're making a good enough argument that they're gonna at least have to look at it. And we've already done a tree survey. We've spent, I think, $60,000 grant money to 750 trees. We've notified 200 and something residents that you have danger. You actually were one, not to point you out, and he took care of it right away. But at least you know what I'm saying is true, and I don't pick favorites. The guy went around and he put on GIS maps where things were dangerous. We went and he, as best a description as he had, and we went to tell the people, and if you can't figure it out, we try to help you. A lot of them have not been replaced, some of them have been trimmed, but the question is, how do you enforce that? You know, how do you go, if we do see something dangerous, and Mike points out that a particular one tree that branches, it's easy, you gotta do it. If your shrubs or whatever are growing in a site triangle, it's brought to our attention, we send them a note. If they don't take care of it, we send them another note in a week. If they don't take care of it again, we go cut it, and it's like $800-something haircut. You know, it gets expensive, and that could be just for the lawn, et cetera. So we do try to, you know, get as many of these things. We have 244 miles of lanes or whatever it is. So it's.
I say I wrote a supporting letter to the grant package from my perspective, you know, as the fire department of why this is beneficial to the community. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, Eric had a couple from his liaison groups as well, from Shade Tree that support us. So we keep trying.
Yeah. Can we just get I don't know if you sent it to Kevin, can we just get a copy of your presentation?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Thank you for coming, commissioners. It's all appreciated. Have a good night.
You want to maybe stay around just in case the public has question and
Yeah,
answers?
and I think you.
Say something?
Well, I'm gonna open it up to the public in a little while. When I say a little while, just a few minutes.
I think you have some items for me for emergency management tonight also.
Okay. All right, at this point, I'd like to open it up to liaison reports. I already did mine. Does anybody have any liaison reports? Nothing, school, open space, anything?
Yeah, I got a couple things.
Okay.
So the seniors, the Girl Scouts threw their annual summer luau party for the seniors this month. So I'd just like to thank the Millstone Girl Scouts for all that they do for our senior community in Millstone. Open space. A lot of our open space projects are starting to wind down and come to an end. So we had a little bit of a brainstorming session at our last open space meeting, and we are considering the idea of doing like a coffee and pastry for local farmers in the fall. Some of the members of Open Space that have been on there for a while said about 5 or 6 years ago they did it, and a lot of farmers came out and showed interest in actually selling their farms for open space, and they actually got a couple purchases out of it. So we're hoping to do the same thing again come the fall and have the farmers come out.
I have to add to that. The difference between 5 years ago and now is that the state passed a law regarding the valuations of farms, and when you're trying to appraise them, you appraise them as if they were improved. So the value of that farm would be much greater than it was 5 years ago. So you have to, when you do that, please let them know about that law
It's
that
not
was
part
enacted.
of SADC rules.
Yeah.
We actually, in the past, they've actually invited people from the state to help come and explain the different programs, whether it's just to give up your farm, the rights, which unfortunately still doesn't pay a lot, or the acquisitions, because when we buy a property, we put up usually around 16%. The county comes in with a significant amount, and the state comes in with a lot. So we try to leverage with them, and the state and the county have always been very helpful in attending these as well.
Great. So we're gonna look forward to doing something in the fall. And we'll contact everybody else. The second thing is, at our open space meeting, they decided that they wanted to do something fun and interactive, for our Millstone Day booth. So we decided we're actually going to do a presentation. It's called Eyes of the Wild. It's actually, a rescue. And they have animals that the kids can touch. They'll give them a little background on them, how they ended up in rescue. I went to the Environmental Commission and the Shade Tree Committee meeting, hoping that they would partner with us so that we can get a couple more shows or presentations for the day at Millstone Day. And both of his committees have agreed. So we're gonna partner up. And we're gonna have this wonderful interactive presentation on Millstone Day. So if anybody's got any kids, or even, if you as adults would like to come out and see the animals, touch them, they have really interesting things like Arctic foxes. They have a wallaby they're gonna bring out. So it's gonna be really fun. So come join us.
Very good, thank you.
2 shows.
Yes.
So just to add to that, Millstone Day is September 21st. From 12 to 5 at Millstone Park, which is 4 Red Valley Road. So please come out and enjoy. It's going to be a lot of fun for the kids. There's going to be a lot of food vendors, a lot of other vendors. It'll be a nice day. Hopefully the weather will be on our side, and it'll be nice. So, anything else? Okay, any new business? Any old business? Any further comments from the dais? Okay, I have one more comment. The Millstone Township Recreation Department is committed to empowering its community members by providing the awareness that is necessary to protect themselves and loved ones against fraud. This presentation will inform you about common scams and those that target children and senior citizens. That is scheduled for September 25th, 2025 at 1 p.m. at the Community Center. It's going to touch upon how to detect a scam, examples of email spams and phishing scams that you would get through your email, ways to be avoided from being hacked. So if somebody, get an email and you click on it, somebody could get remote access to your computer, and then they get access and they look at your credentials, and then they get to financials and everything else. So it'll teach you, or identify ways to prevent that from happening, and identity theft issues. So if anybody's interested, September 25th at 1 p.m. at the Community Center. Okay, at this point, I'd like to open it up to the public, and at this portion of the meeting, you could speak about anything that was on the agenda, any suggestions, any comments, any creativity, any matters that you'd like to discuss.
9:20.
Yeah, when you come up, please state your name and your address. Do we have a mic for them?
No, the microphone, I have to get batteries, but I'm just gonna
Okay.
move these. You can speak.
Good evening, my name's Tony Caciotti, C-A-C-C-I-O-T-T-I.
Yeah, she's gonna write it down. One second.
Good point.
Okay, spell that again, Tony.
C-A-C-C-I-O-T-T-I. I reside at 9 Sherrill Lane. Committee, this may not be on any topic you guys spoke about, but I'm here as the creator, organizer, and overseer of the Central New Jersey Adult Co-ed Softball League of Millstone Township. Having brought in many surrounding town residents to play on our fields, and over the past 3 years, we actually just concluded our 3rd spring season, and we will begin our fall season the 2nd week of September. We've definitely brought a few dollars into the town that the softball league, the adult softball league, has been stagnant for such a long time. I'm here asking for some minor improvements to both fields at Millstone Park. We just had our meeting just right before this meeting over at the community center, and some of the things that came up that were asked of me: a protective covering wrapped around the outfield fences,
You talking about-
removal.
You talking about on top?
Yeah, the top of the fences, because they are so low, some of the outfielders are going to catch a ball and there's potential for some injury.
It's like a covering that's cut in half, and you just put it over.
You've seen them at MLRL, they're yellow, but it could be any color, yes. Removal of the pitcher's mound, the dirt hill type, and then I believe there's gonna be some going on the clay.
They've already purchased the portable mount.
And I know Kevin knows about most of this stuff, so again, it was just brought up because it's been kind of ongoing. A shed placed at the field area for some storage.
Yeah, that's already on the.
A pile of dirt placed somewhere for filling some imperfections that occur throughout the field, just to protect the players. The porta potty, to please stay in its location. Again, this was our first fall season, so we're gonna ask it to stay until November, the second week of November. And then we've noticed, often that the fields outside are cut, the grass outside is cut, but the grass inside the field is not being cut. So if we can be staying on the same schedule as while they're cutting the grass in the entire park, they cut the interior of the field. And then lastly, I'm asking you guys, if you guys play, come out and join us. It's an adult league, it's a co-ed league. Come out and enjoy yourself, and if you don't play, come watch a game. It's a lot of fun. It's been very competitive throughout the years.
Do you have a flyer?
We do.
So
I actually
if you could
do.
email the flyer, that will rectify.
I don't even have to email it to you, I can hand it to you right now.
That's already posted on the
Oh, we did,
website.
okay.
Yeah, we already got on the website that they.
Oh, yeah,
opened up
the Recreation Committee and the Township, there's nothing, they've been very helpful, helping us stay organized and continue doing what we do. So it's been very helpful, but just these things.
You've seen they actually appointed Dave Raditsky, who's been
Yes.
I didn't know that.
So he's our new rec
Oh, yes,
coordinator
I met
and
him,
stuff,
yes,
so
yes, good deal.
He's very
When's the new season
enthusiastic.
start?
We're gonna start, the fall season is gonna start the second week of September, so right after Labor Day. And we're gonna go to November 2nd, and then we're gonna have playoffs, so we may go to the second week of November. Weather permitting, field permitting, we bounced around from Millstone Park, we talked about MRLL, we played behind the middle school, but we feel we have a home in Millstone Park, and we enjoyed playing
And it's
it.
lit fields and.
Yeah, the lights have been not an
LED,
issue,
all that
everything,
kind of
so,
stuff,
yeah.
So most of these things, and I know you talk with Joe Strickland and stuff.
Yeah, you
like
named
that,
the name.
so
Yeah,
we've
there you
got-
go.
We've gone through.
He's
them.
our
So
liaison.
these-
Yep.
The dirt, I kind of didn't know about the cut grass, but everything else is pretty much already on schedule.
Thank you, Kevin. Second thing I'd like to speak about, do I need to say my name again, where I reside?
No.
Thank you. On September 11th, set up time at 5:30 PM on Allen Drive in Allentown Borough. For all township personnel, first responders, fire, police, EMS, first aid, veterans, and local residents to begin a procession walk down Main Street to Pete Sensi Park, where speakers, candle launch, into the lake, and flag placement. And this year, we're going to have a military flyover. As a liaison to the Allentown Remembrance Committee, I'm personally invited members of this committee, as well as all first responders, police officers, EMS, first aid, to come join in our procession and walk as we continue our promise to never forget.
What time is that? What time?
5:30 start for setup, and the procession walk will start at 6 PM, and it goes as long as it goes, as a lot of speakers with names of, the most important thing the most time-consuming thing is there's 150 members of Monmouth County that lost their lives during that tragic date, that we remember them by reciting their name and placing a flag and launching a candle.
Is there a flyer that you could? Do you have a flyer?
That I believe is in the process, but I think I have a rough draft that I could send directly to you or Kevin.
Me or Kevin, whichever.
Yep, I could do that.
And then I can get that out.
I can do, that would be great. We would really appreciate
Email
it.
it to everybody in town.
Yeah, I'll send it out. in
Yep.
the email.
Yep. Yeah, anybody is welcome to join. It's open to the public, 5:30, September 11th. It's an evening one. Most of the processions and remembrance take place during the actual time of the events. Allentown felt that they shut down the streets, Main Street gets shut down, and having an evening for more local people to be able to, not have to take the day off from work and come down and. Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tony.
How y'all doing today?
Good.
My name is Peter Michael Boris. I live on 60 Red Valley Road in Clarksburg, New Jersey. Okay, and my father Charles in 1968 came down here and bought our property, cash, never any mortgage. And the taxes were $40 a quarter. Okay, well, this was a farm town at that time. Then it turned in, a few years in the 90s, it was $400 a quarter, which, was okay. My mother, she had the black lung coming in because my dad was a coal miner. She had Social Security. I farmed 5 acres of land. I was a watermelon farmer and everything. We lived a comfortable life. And now, it escalated. Then came, Township came to me and said, Peter, we want to make a park and we need your 20-some acres. And I, as a conscientious resident of Millstone, I wanted the best for this town. I could have sold that for 3 times as much as the town gave me. But I didn't. And can you imagine that park without my 20 acres? You would have to make a U-turn and it wouldn't have been the park it is now. No problem. Did it. So now, time goes on, you know what the taxes are now. And it's just the way it is. I know I got to do it. But what really is insult to injury is charging me interest. I got behind on my taxes for a lot of good reasons. I don't want to bore you with them, but really they were good reasons. Okay, but take my word for it. So now I'm behind on my taxes. The last 5 months I went down there and paid $5,000 cash, and $3,200 went to my taxes. $1,800 went to interest. That's loan sharking. That's what I call that. That's not fair at all. I propose that you guys, I'm a citizen here, but I've been here since '68, make an ordinance where if you're 65 years old or older and you get behind on your taxes, don't charge us interest. That's crazy. That's criminal. It really is, and that's what I got to say. And I feel like I'm owed a debt of gratitude just for the park there. Now my son Charles, getting to my son Charles, he ran the Millstone News, and he put everything into it. Do you know during the last election, my house was my front lawn, I had the ornaments out. It was ransacked. I built a beautiful mailbox in front of my house. I don't know if you've seen it. Somebody ripped the door off it. You understand? So, for my son's sake, and he's not doing the Millstone thing anymore because he didn't feel like he got like any, nobody's, on his side, Like, thanks, Chuck, and that's it, So that's why he's not doing it. He's the kid that is really heartbroken over the whole thing. So that's all I got to say. And rather than tell the guy at the supermarket or tell one of my grandsons, hey, Charlie, this and that, I figured I'd come and tell you guys, so maybe you could do something about it.
Well, I'm going to defer your request or your question to the attorney, because I don't know if there's any state statutes that dictate what we must do, and we may not have any control of it. And we also have our tax assessor here who could possibly answer that question.
Interest rates are established by state law, but I would defer to the tax assessor to explain it. So.
Well, it's really outside my expertise being, collection.
Right.
But, that being said, I'm not sure on the state ordinances and stuff like that. But one thing I will bring to your attention that I can kind of, guide you, since you said you over 65 or whatever.
Yeah, I'm 73 years old, man.
Yeah, there's a
so I don't know how many more years I even got over here.
A brand new program funded this year by the state of New Jersey called the Stay NJ program. Which is a huge benefit to anybody over that 65. The income requirement, I don't know many people that won't qualify, the income requirement being a minimum of $500,000 annually. And what they're doing,
I'm way below that, brother.
It's funded for 2026. I don't know outside of that, but I can tell you this, for anybody that can take advantage of it, it is up to a 50% refund in tax dollars. So if you have the ability, you can file this thing online, you can, call the state, you can I think they might have an application, Andrew might have an application right at the tax
Andrew will
collector's
help
office.
you know Andrew, he would help you fill out the paperwork.
For sure.
It becomes one form now that covers your
Anchor.
anchor, your,
Senior
this one,
freeze.
and the senior freeze.
Yeah.
The one form will do it.
Yeah, but the only thing is, to get all that stuff, you have to be paid up in your taxes.
Correct. Unfortunately, you get a rebate back on your taxes, so.
Yeah. I'm just saying, this is, come on. You guys, I'm 73 years old, I got pressure on me like I'm 20-year-old. You know?
But unfortunately, sometimes our hands are tied, and we're told that we must follow certain laws.
Yeah, we can't waive.
You
taxes.
can't do it for the,
You can't waive.
say, forget
penalties,
the interest, come on, that's ridiculous. All right, that's what I wanted to come and say. God bless you all, and I hope, everything is good for you all right? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to come up?
Hey guys, how are you? Steve Lambros. I got a little bit to talk about the property taxes too, but not the same topic that Mr. Boers had. But I'm not here to question, and I know that the tax assessor's here, I'm not here to question anything. I'm only here to make some general comments on the record about where we were, where we are, and where we might be going regarding property taxes. So, Millstone's always been a pretty stable community when it came to property taxes. And I've been here for 30 years, and this year was the highest increase in out-of-pocket dollars that I've ever had here. And I know it's been somewhat of a sensitive topic around town, but and I'm not even sure that everybody in town really knows why their taxes, some of them went up and some went down, maybe, and some stayed the same. But it is because of the assessment demonstration program. And this program was rolled out in 2013. And at the time, our township committee decided to not participate. We opted out of it. And somehow this year we found our way into it. But when I go through the data, I find a lot of inconsistencies. So many so that it really calls into question the validity of it all. So I want to point to just a few instances.
If I could ask you not to mention any addresses, just.
I'm not going to mention any addresses.
General,
All
if
right,
you want to
it's
say.
all general.
If you want to say size of lots.
No, it's all
Okay,
general.
Okay.
Okay. So let's take a subdivision, okay, of approximately 60 homes, all built by the same builder at the same time, and there's 3 different models to choose from. So out of the 60 homes, there's 3 models. They're all similar in style, in lot size, in amenities, in age, etc. So part of the subdivision, a good part of it, and by the way, let's rewind. The last time we did our assessment or reval, okay, maybe 10 years ago or more or less, we have to assume that our assessor did a pretty fair assessment of all the properties in town, right? So we have to assume that we're moving forward with something that was fair and equitable at the time. So now, fast forward to 2025 into that same subdivision, and I could see in the 2024 and prior that it is pretty fair and equitable. All the homes have a very consistent range of land value, improvement value, and total value. Fast forward into 2025, it looks like about 20 of the homes, or maybe a little less of the homes in that subdivision, have a much higher assessment value than the other homes in the subdivision. And you could see that most of them have moved up an increased value of 7 or 8%. But in this one section, they've gone up 18%, 13%, 14%, pretty much double. So I want to just end that part of this there, okay? So that's a generic inconsistency, right?
Look, the percentage increases are in the improvement section or on the land value?
So it's both.
Or is it a combination?
It's both,
Okay.
right? Sometimes when you look at this, you see land values that went down and land values that went up and assessment values that went up, even if land value went down. I kind of don't understand why, and I don't want to ask a question, why a land value would go down and an improvement would increase in value, okay? But I don't know. I feel that assessment is part science and part art, okay? And so that brings me to two properties that are completely, they are 100% adjacent to one another, okay? Neither of the lands are encumbered by any wetland or easements so both improvements for both homes went up in value, but one land went down in value, and that land is larger than the land directly adjacent to it that went up in value, okay? So that's another inconsistency.
So the larger plot went down, but the smaller plot went up?
Yeah.
Okay.
But both improvements went up.
Okay.
So I don't understand why that happened too. And by the way, there's hundreds and hundreds of these inconsistencies throughout the data, maybe more than hundreds. There's 4,300 records. There could be 1,000 or more, okay? And of course, you look, everybody wants to pay their fair share of property taxes, but nobody wants to pay more than their fair share. And if you know the data and you're looking at the data and you see situations where maybe some property went up higher in value and is paying more, but there's certainly others that went down or stayed the same when they should have gone up, okay, if you're talking about market rates. But the one thing I also want to bring to your attention is all the commercial properties out on Route 33, okay? So all of them, every property on Route 33 increased in value, not only the land, some of the land went down, but all of the improvements went up. And generally, every property out there increased in value, some very significantly. But there's 3 of them out there that went down in value, okay, which resulted in a significant tax decrease that obviously got shifted onto the residential properties, okay, because it's $854,000 deficit that had to be made up somewhere, okay? So where do you make that up? It just doesn't disappear, right? You have to shift it somewhere. It didn't get shifted onto all of these other properties. It may have been shifted onto the residential properties. So in an effort to grow our town and get ratables to help us, to help absorb some of the property tax burden from residential properties, it seems now that the residential properties, a good portion of them, have absorbed this, which I think is not fair and equitable. There's another one out there that went down a little bit, but it was only $10,000, so it's not much. So $864,000, okay? Think about what that means. That's like $1,000 for 864 homes, okay? I mean, I just want to say, this is where we're at now. And I know that you guys have fielded a lot of calls and concern and confusion from a lot of people, okay? And I'm still confused, and I know a lot more than most, okay? But what concerns me mostly is where are we going from here? Because I understand the assessment demonstration program, and that's why we opted out of it in 2013. So if, I just don't want to have to deal with all the chaos that comes along with it, right, and confusion, but also all the escalations, okay? Millstone has always been known as a conservative, a quiet, peaceful town, affordable taxes, good schools, good quality of life. But if the property taxes get out of hand, it won't be that affordable anymore. And it's always been stable, because we had complete control over our assessments. So if property taxes went up, if a taxing authority raised their rates, okay, taxes went up. But they didn't go up thousands of dollars like we've seen this year. So I don't know, I mean, you're responsible for trying to find a solution going forward. So I don't have anything more, and I don't know if it's appropriate for me to take any questions, but I just want to leave this in your lap, because I know that some people are, other than me, are working on this, trying to decipher this data and make sense of it all. But, so.
Yeah. So thank you for that information. We have Mr. Chris Anthers here. He's our tax assessor. Maybe he could shed some light as to, what methods or methodologies he used or formulas and what he did to come up with these, assessments or reassessments. And maybe if you could address, one of the irregularities, Route 33 or one of the other subdivision homes where they're identical, but one land value went down and the other one went up. But the one that went down was larger, you said?
Yeah.
Was larger, so if you could just maybe touch upon.
Yeah, actually, I'd like to clear something up.
Wait, hold on. Mr. Ziner, can you just give him the?
I can stand up.
No,
you just
it's
need
the
a
mic.
microphone.
It's the mic.
I'd just like
Thank
to
you.
clear something up right from the rip. Your previous assessor didn't set values. You had a revaluation company that came in, and they were responsible for setting the values. The previous assessors before that, they had no input, no change. What we're finding is there wasn't much maintenance at all. There was a lot of disparities between like homes throughout the township of Millstone. Some people were paying 80% on their value, while others were paying 50% of the value. So though that first year...
I understand, but I just read into the record a whole subdivision of the same homes that you evaluated.
Right.
Okay, that are significantly different. Forget about what happened in the past, because right now you're blaming somebody in the past.
No, I'm not.
I'm talking about what's happening today.
I just wanted to correct your statement because it wasn't true. What I also want to say is these neighborhoods are put on what are called value-controlled sectors, okay? So neighborhoods are of likeness were created, value control sector. I don't know how many years ago, whatever the case may be. But what we do is we adjust these VCSs, these value controlled sectors, in a mass appraisal model, right? I know you probably understand that. But just for those who don't. Those neighborhoods, if they're on similar VCSs, that valuation should be similar. So I would love to take a look at the neighborhoods.
The valuation of this neighborhood
Oh,
was consistent until now. It was consistent. I mean, the data from 2024 shows that they're all probably in line with each other within $10,000. Now they're $80,000 apart.
Were the assessments correct at that time?
We have to assume that they were.
We assume, right? So
That's why I come down to, part of this is science and part of it is art.
I think it's easier than that. I think it's data being sales in 1 year time period. If homes, let me just finish if you don't mind. If homes of similar likeness are selling between $800,000 and $1 million, that assessment should fall within line there, right? But even better than that, if it doesn't, you as residents have the opportunity to not only say, hey, I don't agree with my assessment, you can call me up, you can file the appeal, whatever the case may be. But there is a checks and balances in place for these assessments, which is very important, very, very important.
The checks and balances is the assessment appeal process, correct?
That's correct. I mean, it could be formal, it could be
Well,
informal.
with the assessment demonstration program, the two-year lock on an appeal win, it goes out the door. With this assessment program, you only, because it's reassessed every year. If you challenge your assessment under the old rule and you win, the township by law is not able to reassess your property for at minimum of 2 years. But because this assessment process is happening, you only get 1 year. So let's say you win today.
That's not
And he
true.
reassesses you next year.
That is not true.
You got the new assessment. Now, if you disagree with it, you have to challenge it again, and again, and again, and again. At least the old way, you had a little reprieve.
Yeah, but you're referring to the Freeze Act. That's New Jersey statute, that's state courts, right? For the Freeze Act, right? For assessments. So that being said, even under an annual reassessment, the courts have made a determination. You know, Judge Sundar was very clear in her disposition on it that the Freeze Act should apply to judgments. And that doesn't have anything to do with annual reassessments or whatever. I think another thing we should make very clear, the assessment demonstration program that you're referencing by the Monmouth County Board of Taxation in the state of New Jersey, they were going to require a complete revaluation of Millstone in a 1 year period to 100% market value, done by an outside company at the cost of the taxpayer.
So were they knocking on our door telling us we had to do that?
100%. 100%. Actually,
I don't know. Al, were they?
There was a program last year which discussed this.
Actually, it's
So how are
there's
the
more.
other-
There's
how
more
are
to
the
more to
other-
that.
how-
They were the county tax administrator, Matt Clark. You don't have to take my word on it. You can call him. On his desk was a complete order for revaluation. I didn't think that was fair for the residents. I went in front of the county tax board and I said, "Hey, is there a better solution so we do not have these assessments going to 100% market value in a 1 year period, done by an outside revaluation company, and then the second part of that order was complete revaluation and then assessment demonstration program." So you were going to be in the same situation.
Okay. The assessment demonstration program only exists in Monmouth County. It doesn't exist anywhere in New Jersey.
As of right now, I mean, you know, Somerset was the original demonstration program. They've been doing it for about 30 years.
After they found out that it's not as fair and equitable.
I believe they pulled out.
Yeah, everybody pulled out
No,
when they found out. it
30
wasn't.
years. I can.
Everybody pulled out after they realized how problematic it is, okay? And now this is gonna, if we stay with this, what you're going through today, is gonna happen every year. How can property taxes remain stable when you have so much movement with market values and so much movement and a compounded movement with tax rates? Now, I give Millstone Township School Board, Millstone Township Municipal Government, and the fire department great credit. All three of them reduced their rates to help meet the challenge. But that didn't happen in the other taxing authorities, okay? Those taxing authorities increased. Now, so I see like this is a windfall of money for some of those taxing authorities. Let's say you move your tax rate 2%, but your assessment value goes up 14. You end up getting like a 10% return on a 2% raise, okay? So that's the unfairness and the inequity. Now, there's a couple of other moving parts here. One is that the federal government printed $17 trillion over the last few years and inflated the cost of everything, right? So now these costs are inflated. And now also nobody's building single-family homes. So when single-family homes, that's all that Millstone has, really, okay? When a good one goes up for sale, you have 20 people trying to buy it, and everybody's offering way over ask to get into the house. And these are considered in your calculations, right? Over ask offers, higher values due to inflation, okay? And so, and the net end result though, after all this, after what you said and what I said and what anybody else thinks, is that there's tremendous inconsistencies.
So that's why I think that a lot of these things over the house, but it's 12, 13 years since the last time there was someone going house to house checking. We found houses that had a pool and a house behind their house that wasn't on the rolls. There's a lot of these inconsistencies, a lot of commercial properties that aren't maybe paying, that the burden is passed on to the residents because they haven't been inspected.
But it's not practical to knock on everybody's door to find out if they have a finished basement or a swimming pool or a fence or a patio or this or that.
But that's
It's not practical,
that's the
but
data
the
though.
value of the house, and other people might be paying an inequitable amount because somebody isn't.
But
And the same with commercial
what I
properties.
think Mr. Lambros is trying to say is that forget about what the house is. How did these assessments, on certain properties go up on land that's identical and the same property right next to it
But
went
were they
down?
actually the same the year before,
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
So
they were.
He's saying yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what?
They were.
If I get if I understand what you're saying, take the improvements out of it, okay? If you take the improvements out of it, he's saying property A is X amount of acres.
Yeah.
Property B adjacent to it is less acreage than property A.
But is that house on a corner, which is
Okay.
less
So here-
desirable because it's on a
No,
busy street
today,
and stuff?
last year, they were $1,000 different.
Yeah.
That's close enough, right?
Does that make it right though? Is
Yeah,
that
that's where I
accurate?
would like to-
1,000, and still, the smaller property was still priced at $1,000 more. Now, the smaller property is $11,000 more, okay?
If you could send me that list, I'd love to take a look at it. I know you can't read.
No, that's not what I do, okay? That's not what I do.
I'd just like to see the
Because
data.
you know what you could do with this list? You could say, you know what? Everybody that was assessed at 7% higher, I made a mistake. The 14% higher guys and the 17%, those were accurate. I'm gonna now make all the 7% people 14%.
But if they're not corrected, if these issues aren't corrected, then how is,
It should have been correct, but it's not.
so to
But I'm
correct,
not saying it's not correct. I'm saying it's inconsistent.
Absolutely.
Very inconsistent.
That's my main concern. I want to look at the inconsistencies.
Yeah,
Well, there's simple cases out there that within developments, they're all the same acreage, say they're all 2.5 acres, because that's the zone for R130.
Right.
And you have one lot that's valued at 175,000. Same 2.5 acre lot, literally the next house over is valued at 225,000.
I just find that tough to believe because of these value control. No, I'm just saying.
It's in the data.
All right, so I will, I was gonna keep quiet, but I'm actually gonna say something.
Bring the mic up.
So,
No, take the phone. It's in the data.
yes,
Okay.
so I actually spent lots of time analyzing this data. This was actually something that really bothered me, this whole tax thing that went on in this town. So I will give you a specific example. There are 3 houses on Millstone Road
Okay.
that are, I've looked on Google Earth, they are the exact same dimensions. They are 1.84 acres, okay? So the one is, you have assessed at $129,100.
This is
The
the
one,
land portion.
the one directly next to it is $146,100. The one directly next to it is $210,600.
What were the assessed values last year?
So they were all 147. And actually, the ones that I looked at a lot, everything that was 1.84 acres before was assessed at that 147. Here's another one on Stillhouse Road, that's that 184, which is another main road. And you have it assessed at $170,700.
It's like, how do you get different values of?
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
So wait a minute.
Take-
So I'm sorry, but what was consistent has been turned into an inconsistency.
Very
okay,
much so.
in 1 year.
Yes.
Okay.
So even like 1 acre lots, every single one I looked at in the past was assessed at like $99,000. Like there's one now that went down to $54,000, $181,900, $129,000, $77,800, $135,700.
These are only land assessed.
Only land. I'm taking the building like completely out of it because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know everybody's houses is different. So that's literally what I was focusing on.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
land-
absolutely, absolutely.
The land part, because if you live on a main road, Millstone Road, like if you have 1.84 acres, like it's a main road. I can see like, you know, if he's talking about subdivisions, you have that same 1.84 acres in a subdivision. It's gonna be a lot more. Like there's no traffic through there as opposed to what Millstone Road is. So I get that.
Wait, Chris, to just add to her, are property values taxed differently if they're on main roads, secondary roads, tertiary roads?
So buyer perception would say that a property in a neighborhood would be a little bit higher value
I would
than
assume.
something
I
on a
would
main
assume,
road.
Yes.
This market is a little bit different, but regardless of that,
But
yeah.
that's completely subjective, because there are other people that would say, I'd rather be on
I said the
main
majority
road
buyer
with a little
preference.
bigger lot and have like an estate home. So that's where the art comes in, okay? You're showing what your artistry is, okay? But everything's subjective. Somebody might have an updated bathroom that might be more value than one that was original. But somebody
But
might walk in there.
that's not
Somebody just
included.
bought a house in my neighborhood, and there's already a dumpster in the thing because they're remodeling what was already there, because it wasn't their taste. But you as an assessor for us, you're using your subjective mind to assess the properties differently by whatever's in there.
Well, it's just what the data is telling me. If the data is telling me a renovated home is selling for more than a non-renovated home, like you said, it's buyer preference, right? It's preference of the person. Maybe they like the old, whatever. But the majority of that market will tend to pay a little bit more for that home that is renovated. I'm not trying to escape the land values, but I just want to make that very clear, because at what point does the bidding wars, like, even though they change, inventory, stuff like that, but at what point does that then become the market? If it's one or two sales, then I can agree with you. Those are probably outliers, right? But if a constant trend of multiple bids on these houses are selling between A and B, per se, then that assessment should reflect the value.
Right, and the part that you can't see, well, what you can see is if you're monitoring the MLS, do you monitor the MLS?
Absolutely.
So you could see what the ask and what the sell was, right? So you know if they ask 500 and it sells for 600, then there's a $100,000 difference where somebody had to go in there and pay over ask. to
But
get
one
that
sale
property.
can't make the market. It has
So
to.
do you calculate in the over ask?
I just look at factual data.
Yeah.
So what is the, I'm kind of curious, what is the factual data?
The factual data will be 1 year's worth of sales. So if ranches in Millstone,
That hurts. That's brutal.
but you,
want us
Right, but
This is
wait,
public
wait.
comment.
Yeah.
I think the confusion.
You can't speak out of turn.
I think the confusion is I don't set taxes, I set values, okay? The assessor's office is responsible for one thing, right? If a house is $1 million, then the assessment should be close to that, right? Outside of that, I don't have any input on what budgets do, what the growth is, what the allocations are. I have no input on that, for good reason. Because the distribution of that budget is your assessment. So if the assessment is incorrect, once again, I want to be very clear. If the assessment is incorrect, chances are that, or the probability of those tax dollars being incorrect is higher than not, right? We can all agree there, right?
So if we raise the conversation up a little, instead of looking at the total value of assessment, which is subjected to market conditions, market demand, realtors and all that, let's go back to basics. Land is land. Okay, a lot of similar sizes should not be very disparate from one another, I'm assuming. So I'm looking in my neighborhood right now, and within my neighborhood, I see some of the lots that are small being assessed high, some of the lots that are large being assessed lower than some of the smaller lots.
So,
And to me, there's a very large consistency just in these 40 homes within this one particular neighborhood. To top it off, there's one up for sale right now in our neighborhood that's being an asking price of almost $1.5 million. Good if they get it, but their assessed value is less than $1 million. So how do you even justify something like that?
well, if the data last year said that this house is 1.2 million, then how could I raise it to 1.5 million?
The market didn't go up 33%.
But it's also 67% is what we're at, so if you take.
No, you're missing
Outside the
the-
ratio, he's just talking
Okay, all
about,
right.
you know,
I'm just
physical
talking
dollars,
about-
yeah.
if
I understand what you're saying.
1 year, the house value didn't go up 35%.
I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you, in a regular market, that would not be the case. But what we're seeing is something astronomical. I just had a sale, 5,000 square foot on Cook, $2 million. That's the highest new construction, 5,000 square foot home I've seen in the Township of Millstone. You know what they were selling the prior year? 1.6, 1.7, 1.8, okay? Now they're at, $2 million. Is that in the new market, the $2 million? Or is
No.
that,
But I do want to say, okay, so
But the
you're
land value
making
should
all
be
of your
consistent.
calculations based on annual sales, but in this town, maybe 6 or 10 or 15 or 25 houses get sold. It's minuscule compared to other towns,
Right.
okay? So you're reassessing your entire town of 4,500 or 4,000 homes based on the sale of 25 homes. It just doesn't seem fair and equitable, okay?
but that's,
It just, but it's science, it's his science, and it's his art, okay? But to a taxpayer, it just doesn't seem fair and equitable.
Boggles the
Okay,
mind.
because
Yes.
you're gonna go through ebbs and tides, right, of highs and lows in markets. And what's gonna happen, the thing that concerns me a lot, like a real lot, okay, is if there's an economic downturn and our entire inventories get slashed by
Your assessment would reflect that.
25%. Is the county and the municipality and the fire district and everybody else gonna slash their budgets by 25%? No. They're gonna be faced with
The value
increase.
of the home doesn't affect the budget, though. The money gets
No,
spread
no,
out
no, no.
among all your taxpayers.
no.
So
The
if
way-
everybody goes down 20,
No, the
you're
way-
still paying the exact same amount.
No, the way,
He's
no,
saying
you
that
understand
the
what I'm
assessed value
saying.
is being
Look.
taxed by the rate.
If A plus B equals C, okay, and A is the levy, and B is the inventory, okay, that means C is the only thing that goes up and down.
Yeah, the tax rate's a constant variable. That's
Right.
correct. That's
Okay.
correct. When the
Well, what
assessment,
happens when the inventory goes down?
the assessments reflect that, but your tax rateable would increase. Because how they derive at the tax rate is the lump sum of
Right.
assessments divided by the budget. So if the
No, I get it.
budget stays the same, status quo, or increases, and the assessments do decrease, you would see that variable being the tax rate
Right. So-
increase.
Yeah, so if your values, if your inventory value went down 40%, that means your rates are gonna have to go up 40%.
If yeah, that's absolutely.
To keep it flat.
For sure. And furthermore, what happens if the budget was to increase 2%, 5%, something like that?
Right.
That rate will carry higher
So
than
do
that.
you do any assessment work outside of Monmouth County?
Outside of Monmouth
I'm talking
County?
about municipal assessment work, contract work for
No,
municipal.
not outside of Monmouth County.
Why has every other county in the state dumped well, first of all, in 2013, there was 3 counties that opted in. Monmouth was one of them. They asked the 53 municipalities to participate. A lot did not. Some are still holding out. Millstone was one of them up until this year. There's still several out there that are still holding out.
Yeah, they were ordered a revaluation, but yes,
Yeah,
they're
they'll
fighting
order a
in court
reval.
right now.
They'll order a reval, but they're not gonna order them into the assessment demonstration program.
That's 100% factual.
Correct, right?
No, after the reval, right now, under the new terms set by the Monmouth County Tax Board, is after a revaluation, they would go to annual reassessment. Look, annual reassessments for me, it would be a lot less work. It would be what you had already. What I'm saying to you is I'm bound to these guidelines set forth by the Monmouth County Board of Taxation in the state of New Jersey. I don't come in here and say, hey, I want to change everybody's assessments. If it was up to me, leave them the same if it's not broken. But the problem is this. Even though there are inconsistencies now, I think you're failing to look at the inconsistencies prior.
Well, I'm looking at.
Well, if you have a $1.5 million home,
I'm looking at a 60-home subdivision, and the 2024 totals range from the low 5s to the mid 5s.
and what are houses selling in that neighborhood?
5s to the low 5s to the mid 5s, okay? And now part of the subdivision is in the mid to high 5s, the mid 5s, okay? And that one section that I was talking about is in the mid to high 6s.
Okay.
Same houses, same builders, same years, same amounts of land, same size homes. But you got a part of the subdivision that's 10 to 12% higher in assessed value than the rest of it. And then
Maybe
the
I
other
can ask
one
you a
that I
question.
brought up with the land and the one that Jeff brought up and Tara brought up, and even this, how do we, like, out of all the properties on Route 33 that went up 24%, 6%, 100%, 18%, 25%, 16, 14, 12, 25, 2, 73, 30, 20, 11, 13, 120, 15, and 42%. We got 2 of them went out there that went down 13% and 16% for a total of $854,000 in tax revenue. And another one that went down 20% for $10,000.
Well, I mean, all commercial property is done on an income approach. So, I mean, we had strip malls valued at $500,000. I can't agree with that. So they're going to have to go up substantially more than other commercial properties that were assessed closer to what their market value should have been. with
But I mean,
ratio
why-
applied.
why
Going
did it-
down part, though.
But I still see the inconsistency, no matter, look, I know you're gonna tell me how good your book is, right? You wrote the book, so you're gonna tell me how good it is, so, but it doesn't change.
No,
The
what I can
fact-
tell you is I'm the type of person, if there's inaccuracies, I would correct them. And that's part of the assessor's office, is correcting things as you find them, going forward. So if that's the case, then obviously it should be corrected next year. The thing to not do is,
Well, wait, I have to interject. So if there are so many irregularities, because it's getting late, we have to
Yeah.
end this back and
I'm sorry.
forth. No, don't be sorry. Thank you for bringing it up. Maybe you can take a step back and take a look at the spreadsheets and see, or identify on your own what these irregularities are, as far as, land assessments that are the same, identical, the same lot, same everything, one went down, one went up. And if there is an inconsistency or irregularity, identify why, and maybe correct that and let us know. Come to us and let us know, yes, Ms. Lambros identified
There
X.
was one building, a very large building on 33.
No, I'm talking about residential right now.
No, but the commercial property, why so many went up, and one, which was a very large number, went down, because it's a very large building, and it was kind of based off of the rents and stuff. So instead of going to a tax court where you could lose 2 years back, they
Yeah.
kind of came in, and so there was one
Okay,
particular
I got a
building
question
that.
about rents,
well-
right? So let's say I have a commercial property and it's assessed right now at, $10 million.
what's the,
And-
what kind of
and-
commercial property?
And I'm saying.
Retail, just retail? Just so I can
No,
get-
warehouse, let's say.
Warehouse, okay.
Warehouse. I got a tenant in it, it's assessed at $10 million. I lose my tenant, right? Do I have the right to come to you and say, hey, I want a lower assessment because I don't have a tenant?
No.
Okay. Okay. So a homeowner doesn't have the right to come to say, I can't use, I'm not gonna be living in my home for 6 months, so I want a lower tax assessment.
If there's a fire damage or something like that, yes, I do change them, mid-year, absolutely.
All right. So this particular one that Kevin's talking about it's a warehouse, right? And people are building warehouses like crazy, so I'm assuming that the warehouse demand has to be pretty high, right?
Yeah, between 150 and 250,000 square feet is kind of the sweet spot now.
So, well, let's put it this way. They're building warehouses all over the place, right? So that means the demand for warehousing has to be pretty high, because these people are pretty smart, right? So they should be building properties that they can rent. But we might have a guy in our town that just doesn't have the motivation to find a tenant for this building, right? So it's empty. So should we bail him out because he doesn't know how to market his property and get a tenant and give him an $854,000 decrease?
That's not a building, the building's full. The one that had the
Well, then why,
decrease full.
okay, but why did he get why did he get, it wasn't, it was $854,000
So,
taxes?
we're
Why
gonna
did he
go-
get a 13%
See, why don't you come
discount?
in-
I mean, a
meet-
decrease
come to
on one
Chris's
building?
office and meet with him, and he can give you the whole
Well,
spell
before,
why.
before he does that, what I would ask you, Chris, like I said before, if you can look at certain properties
Oh, absolutely.
and identify, why there are irregularities on land assessment, and if the same type of home, same size, same structure, with the same type of improvements, if they went up and down disparately, identify why. Come back to us, let us know why they were disparate, what your solution's gonna be. And I would like also is to let us know what you used to get this evaluation from 24 to 25. So this way, if there are so many irregularities that now we're finding, and you identify them as well, maybe we can nip that in the butt for next year. And I don't want to wait, to fix this next year. the tax reassessment goes out, the cards go out in December, correct?
November.
November.
Yeah.
So I'd like to get this done sooner than later.
Oh, absolutely.
So this way, if there is anomalies and there are irregularities, let's correct them this year so we could give the reprise, the reprieve back to the residents and say, okay, we were informed of X, we heard what you guys said, we did, a check on certain, properties and that had irregularities. And this is what we found, and this is what we're doing to fix it, and we're gonna do that before the next tax season goes out in November. Is that doable?
Absolutely, that's
Okay.
100%.
In the interest of fairness, if you do find an inconsistency among like things, okay, then.
We're not gonna
in
lower
the-
something to make it wrong
In
on
the
both
interest of
sides.
fairness, though, if you're gonna make an adjustment, you should take the high one and go low with it, instead of taking the low one and going high, okay?
It should be whatever it should be.
All right.
Exactly, but
So Tara has a spreadsheet she worked on for hours. I don't know how much time you spent on doing that. So let Mr. Anthers do his due diligence. Let's compare all of the spreadsheets, and we'll meet offline, and we'll try to figure this out. And once it's figured out, we'll come up with a solution, and then we'll try to get this done before November to correct any of the anomalies.
and I think, okay, again, this all falls back on the assessment demonstration program for annual assessments, okay? I think.
I'm not the spokesperson for it. I can
get it.
just
I
do
get
what the
it.
county
I get
tax
it.
board
Look,
tells me, you know what I mean?
I can understand why they stay with it. I can understand
Yeah, it's up
why
to you.
they
I
stay with it.
mean, you're gonna have to probably, file the lawsuit, but yeah, that's up to you guys, you know what I mean? I'm not coming in here and saying, hey, you have to do this.
Again, let's
Yeah,
understand
but
the situation.
To throw the whole town into this reassessment process based on the sale of 25 homes, okay, in a town is it's pretty wild.
But it doesn't necessarily increase the amount you pay. Because if everybody goes up,
No,
the
yeah,
budget doesn't
Kevin,
change.
in a perfect world, look, you told me this, that it will equalize, Steve. Don't worry about it, it'll equalize. I said, Kevin, this is the wrong thing, it's gonna go up. And you
Okay.
said, don't worry, it's gonna equalize. And guess what? Guess what happened? I can't wait for it to happen again. Okay, I can't wait for it to equalize again. It didn't
Well, they
equalize
haven't done house to house,
equalize
is
the
what they
first
haven't
time,
done, though.
and it's probably not gonna equalize the second
Well,
time.
I don't know if that needs to be done. Let's
Well,
check.
I think it does need to be done.
Well, no, but-
Whatever the cards say should be accurate. Otherwise, you'll never have accurate taxes.
No,
I'm
but
just my only opinion.
No, I understand that, but we're not even saying about improvements that were done to a house that we don't know about. He's saying just the reassessment is an issue. So if somebody put a pool in and they
So
didn't
if
permit it,
everybody's
that's not the
house is
issue.
more value and we don't change our budget, the schools don't change their budget.
No, but that's not what he's saying.
No, you gotta just change your rate. You gotta
Okay.
change your rate if you need
Mr.
more money.
Lambros, I'm gonna have to
Yeah, okay.
end the
All right,
public
great.
portion.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank
Thank you,
Thank you
Township
for your
Committee.
time.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Tax Assessor.
Chris, if you could give us a timeline?
For sure, yeah.
No, give us a timeline.
I mean, it's gonna be, before November, obviously, I mean.
No, I need you to do your due diligence and come back, not before November. I need to know, is it gonna be, mid-September, end of September? We need to discuss
Well,
this.
I
and
think,
if
I think the
this-
main thing is to look at it first, and then I can give you an answer, because I gotta see how big the problem is, right? I mean, I'd love to take everybody at their word, but I wanna see these things and say, hey, this needs to get corrected, this needs to do this needs to do that. I
That's
think
why-
that's the responsible thing to do.
Right, that's what I asked you to do.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
I don't want you to come to us 2 weeks before November and say, this is what I found, and we have no time to decide or change or revise or whatever. I want enough time that we can look at it, sit down with you, identify what the problems are, what the solution's gonna be, and then enact that. So I don't come to us at the 11th hour and say, this is what I found. I want it beforehand, okay? Okay. Does anybody else have anything to say? All right. At this time, I'd like to close the public portion at 10:19,
I have 10:20.
10:20. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I'll
second. All in favor? Aye. Everybody, thank you for coming. It was a
Out at
long meeting.